All right, everybody, good afternoon. I think it is time. It's time to unveil the first episode of Wilson Wednesday. Now, if you guys watched the game on Sunday, I don't need to tell you that Wilson played very well. He put up points, he was efficient, he avoided turnovers, he moved the ball, he made big plays, he made little plays, did a lot of good things. And you also probably know, if you're watching the post-game stuff and looking at the box score, you probably know his stats. His X yards, Y touchdowns, Z interceptions. You probably know what he put up. And we're not here to talk about that, because I like to go one level deeper on this stuff. And to just say that Wilson played great, yeah, I could do that, but it wouldn't be that interesting, and I don't think it would be very educational. I want to go into how Russell Wilson is playing. I want to see if his game is changing from the Schottenheimer offense. I want to see how he is going through the process of playing quarterback, not just the results. And don't get me wrong, whatever I can say in this video, he played great on Sunday. He played great. And it doesn't really matter what the process is subjectively, because objectively he played a great game. But that doesn't mean it's not interesting to look at the process and see if things are changing or not under Waldron. All right, let's jump in, keeping in mind we have a small sample size to work with, so comparisons to previous years are not yet going to be that educational. However, in game number 1 under Waldron, Russell Wilson's air yards were actually higher than ever. 10 air yards per pass attempt, which is higher than it had been under Schottenheimer in any year, and 7.9 air yards per pass completion, which is higher than it had ever been under Schottenheimer. So for all the new stuff we saw in the Waldron offense, the short passes, the screens, the dump offs, we still aired the ball out a lot. And I want to stress that's a good thing, because that is Wilson's strength as a quarterback. His deep ball, we don't want to take that away from him. But I do find it interesting that the numbers were so high. Also, this is also good news because the yard after catch per pass completion number was high too, 6.2 yards. The last 3 years it had been around 4.9. So early returns, quite positive. Also positive was his accuracy. PFR credited him with 2 bad throws on Sunday compared to 19 on target throws. So he is definitely coming out on point, with less than 10% of his passes being marked as bad and 90.5% of his throws either marked as on target or acceptable. So great start to him in that regard, better than he had shown in the previous seasons. Pocket time was basically identical to the previous 3 years as well, about 2.5 seconds on average. He was sacked 3 times, which basically puts him on pace to match his previous 3 seasons. Now, sacks tend to come and go in bunches, so looking at one game to try to determine sack pace is really not something that's informative. However, one thing that PFR did seem to indicate very strongly is that Wilson was not hit very often. And this actually is at odds with some other numbers that I have seen. Now, let me take a moment to say pressures are subjective, and there are multiple websites that keep track of pressures, and they rarely agree. 3 different guys can watch a play, and you'll almost certainly have 2 guys saying that guy got pressure, and then the other guy says, no pressure, that's not a pressure. Or 2 guys say it's not pressure, and then the one guy says, no, that's a pressure. So, Pro Football Reference keeps track of their stats one way. Pro Football Focus probably does it another way. And if you look at Pro Football Focus, they may feel differently about this. However, according to Pro Football Reference, which is what I like to use, Wilson was hurried once on Sunday, and he was hit twice. So a grand total of 6 QB pressures on approximately 28 to 29 dropbacks. Now, that's actually really good, and that flies directly in the face of some of the stuff I was seeing from Twitter the last couple days regarding him getting pressured as much as 13 times. So the truth is probably somewhere closer to the middle. I think it was probably closer to 8 if you're going to try to parse through all this data and come to a reasonable and logical middle ground. But if the number is actually 6, that would be a good amount better in terms of pressure percentage than what we've seen in previous years. Part of the reason why the number is low is because Wilson didn't drop back to pass that many times, because it wasn't really part of the game plan, and we didn't have to because we had a lead for almost the entire game. But it's a step in the right direction if this is the actual number. Again, I think the number is probably closer to like 7 or 8, but if it's actually 6, that's a big, big step in the right direction. Finally, we have Scrambles, and this Scrambles is a good indication of how many times your quarterback is forced to run away from quick pressure, because he drops back to pass, can't find anybody open, and then he's just got to get out of there before he gets creamed. He had to do this twice against the Colts, and I think both times it was on the first drive of the game. So if that is true, and I think that it is, I think I remember both plays, that's really, really good. Yeah, 2 scrambles in a game is roughly in line with what he had been doing over the last 3 years under Schottenheimer. It was more like 2 to 3 a game under Schottenheimer, I guess. But if he was able to get that out of the way on the first drive and spent the whole rest of the game basically being on schedule, I like that. That's an indicator that that number could continue to go down as the season goes on, to where he's maybe only scrambling once a game, or none at all, unless it's planned, which defeats the purpose of a scramble. So I like that. And play action attempts. According to PFR, we had 7 play actions on Sunday against the Colts. And keeping in mind the fact that Wilson only dropped back to pass about, I would say, somewhere around 28 to 29 times total, that's pretty good. That's a decent amount better than what we had seen under Schottenheimer. And you guys know how I feel about play action. Now, I want to see more than 7. And a big reason why I didn't is because we didn't pass the ball a ton against the Colts. But I definitely want to see more than 7 play actions. I want to see 10 plus. I might want to see 15. I don't know. All I know is that every stat I've ever seen indicates that play action makes plays better. So 7 is good, but I want better. And those are all the Wilson-related metrics that I have today. Basically, to sum it up, he played very well, was very accurate, and may have not gotten pressured as much as some people, myself included, were thinking. His deep ball is still going to be a part of this offense, it looks like. However, these numbers are also skewed heavily because he had a 70-yard touchdown pass. He's not going to throw 70-yard touchdowns in every game. In fact, he might only do it a couple more times this whole season. These numbers will come down just because of the fact that you don't throw 70-yard touchdowns in every game. However, it's clear that, at least so far, while you can see little bits and pieces of the Waldron offense getting baked into the current offense, it's still a lot of the same stuff. And that's not a bad thing, because the old offense had a lot of stuff that Wilson was good at. But in terms of getting the ball out faster and throwing shorter passes, high percentage passes, we still have a little bit of a ways to go. But pretty good start. See you guys later today. Another video coming out sometime later today. Go Hawks. See you guys later.